video, I'm going to show you how to use a router to cut mortise and tenon joints. The first ones I cut was with this jig right here. This Porter cable jig is my favorite because it is easy to use and it is sturdy. The pins on the jig are equally spaced at 1.5 inches, and that makes it easy to cut 3 tenons in a row without moving the jig. This thumb screw on the back side of the jig is how you fasten the template in place. Set the plate in the first position and cut, then cut another in the second position and another in the third position. Then flip the plate over and reverse the process. Use machine screws to fasten the sacrificial spacer board. I made several different thicknesses, going from 3/4 of an inch down to 1/16 of an inch using laminate. I always use this Porter cable plunge router to cut mortise and tenons, and when I'm using the Porter cable jig, I remove the template collar because Porter cable makes this special router bit supplied with the jig that has a bearing in the middle, and it cuts 1 inch deep. So you set it so that the bearing, the washer above the bearing, sits just at level with the surface of the wood. And you set the stop so that it stops. You tighten it down, then set this at 1 inch. So if it moves, you know where to reset it. You line the jig up with your mark. Alright, we're going to use the router, so we want to make sure that we use hearing protection, safety glasses and earplugs. And you end up with a perfect mortise. Line scribed on a tenon jig, and you just line it up halfway on your back slat and set the tenon going that way. We're going to cut the first half. Use a square to check to make sure that you're sitting square in the jig so that you cut a good straight tenon. Then you turn the template over, have it facing the other direction to cut the other half of the tenon. Once I got the jig figured out, I clamped the speed square on to speed up the process. Several people emailed me and told me that they couldn't find the Porter cable jig, so I did some homework and I discovered that Porter cable only made the jig for 3 years and then stopped it because of lack of interest. But I've got another jig that'll work. So I found an alternative made by Lichtenstein Workshop. Everything you see on this table is called the jointmaster joinery system. I put this template collar on, and I use a straight flute router bit and set it at 1 inch of depth. Then set your bar to the third lowest setting on your router dial. Then set this at 1 inch, so if it moves, you know where to reset it. You have to mount the jointmaster. A bolt passes through the jig and the plywood of the device, and you tighten the nut up to hold the jig securely to the device. The guides on the side are added so you can hold your piece square in the jig when you cut the tenon. The top of the jig has 2 keyways for a sled that holds the template. The sled can travel about 4 inches from front to back, and it allows you to set your tenon in the right place. With this jig, you can cut 10 in a row by cutting them in twos, moving back and forth using both sides of the template. Set the router to the first stop, route around the template, set the router to the second stop, route around the template, set the router to the third stop, route around the template, then flip the template over and use all 3 depth settings on the router to route it again. You get a nice little tenon with this jig. Use the second template to cut the mortise. With it, you get the same level of movement as the first template. This set screw sets the sled in place so that you set your mortise. If you're going to run a router, you may as well buy as many jigs for it as you can, because having different router jigs makes the router a very versatile tool in any backyard wood shop. I'll be posting more videos just to show you how versatile the router is. Enjoy your backyard wood shop the same way I enjoy mine. Get creative and build something.
I had to get myself close to you.